This hearing in just a moment, but I wanted to take a minute to go over a couple housekeeping things. This is our fourth hearing on either the Atlantic Coast or Mountain Valley Pipeline this week. We did our first Atlantic Coast on Monday night. We have been able to get through about 95 speakers each night. Right now, we only have 70-some speakers signed up, so there should be plenty of time for everyone to have their 3 minutes. But just wanted to mention, everyone here who signed in has the right to speak, but if you are going to say something that you already said verbatim on Monday night into the record, and you might want to think about letting somebody else have a turn. You have the right to speak, but I just offer that in case you are thinking about whether or not you want to say the same comments again. The other thing I wanted to mention is we've had a couple of speakers over the last few nights who have come up to the podium with a glass jar full of water. That will not be tolerated here. The university security have said anybody that brings water up to here will be escorted out. So please, if you brought something in, if you brought a jar of water, please leave it at your seat, or you won't be able to stay for the rest of the hearing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Heather Wood. I'm a member of the State Water Control Board. The State Water Control Board is a policy-making body of citizens appointed by the governor and empowered by the law to adopt regulations and issue permits or certificates. Members of the board are not employees of the Department of Environmental Quality. In addition, it is state law and regulation that are the basis for the actions taken by the board and the department. Neither the agency nor the board has the authority to make changes to the law. I will serve as your hearing officer for tonight's public hearing. This hearing was authorized by the director of the department, and notice of the hearing was published in 12 newspapers during July 3rd through July 6th, 2017. This hearing is being held as one method for the board and the department to receive public comments on the draft additional 401 water quality conditions for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline project. This fact-finding proceeding is being held pursuant to sections 2.2-4019 and 62.1-44.155 of the Code of Virginia and the board's procedural rule number 1. No decisions will be made here tonight. The board will make a decision at a future board meeting, which is currently planned for the fall of 2017 of this year. Please be assured that information relevant to the draft additional 401 water quality conditions presented at this public hearing and through the public comments process in writing and at additional public hearings will be considered by the board in the decision-making process. We have a few rules for commenting this evening, and they are as follows. Each person wishing to provide oral comments has 3 minutes in which to do so. No pooling or consolidation of minutes may occur. Written comments may also be handed to any department staff person here tonight. Your name and mailing address must be included on the written comments. I also ask that when you approach the podium to deliver your oral comments, you state your name and address for the record. This hearing will adjourn at 10 p.m. I will call on elected officials or their representatives first, to be followed by those people who have received a speaker number, and will be called in numeric order. As have indicated on the sign-in sheet that you wish to speak. We will do this until the hearing adjourns. If you do not get an opportunity to speak, please consider submitting your comments in writing. All comments relative to the draft Section 401 water quality conditions will be considered regardless of whether the comments are submitted orally or in writing, and written comments may be as long or as short as you deem necessary. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to receive your comments on the draft additional Section 401 water quality conditions. No questions will be answered at tonight's hearing. We expect courteous and respectful behavior from everyone here tonight. Disruptive attendees may be asked to leave, or if considered necessary, I will call a recess or the hearing will be adjourned. We will be recording tonight's public hearing. Please note that the public comment period for this certification will close at 11:59 p.m. on August 22nd, 2017. At this time, I will call on any elected official or their representative. being none, I will call on those individuals in numeric order who have indicated on the sign-in sheet that they wish to speak. I would like to remind each of you that you have 3 minutes to make your comments. So if speaker 1 is Bill, please approach.
Good evening. My name is Kenda Hanuman. I'm from Buckingham County. And I say Virginia is for water lovers. Not only those living and getting their drinking water here, but also very numerous businesses, farmers, timber producers, and thousands of tourists who come to fish, boat, tube, hike, swim, and enjoy this beautiful Virginia environment. I depend on my well for all my water needs. I would have exhibited my water in a plastic, but instead it's in skin. It's about 80% here. As I would guess, the majority of the people on the proposed pipeline do get their water from wells. Our water is not negotiable. This is life. I live in the Satchidananda Ashram Yogaville community that borders the James River. The Lotus, an international interfaith shrine on the James River, hosts thousands of visitors annually from around the world. It is less than a mile downstream from where the ACP has planned to drill and blast underneath the river and up the steep, rocky slope. The possibility of releasing harmful substances is made more certain as a neighbor's well recently tested high for arsenic content. Scouring, which occurs when there's flooding, would conceivably damage the underwater pipe and threaten life downstream. Besides the crossings of multiple rivers, thousands of streams are in the proposed pipeline route. The 54,000 horsepower compressor station on Route 56 would threaten the purity of the water, air, and land, and the safety of those in the Union Hill Woods Road community, as well as downwind properties, including Carlos Aristide's dairy farm and Yogaville. New York State offered a precedent in putting people above profit regarding both the Northern Access Pipeline and the Constitution pipelines. In their denial, they said they were doing so due to adverse impacts on wetlands, streams, fish, and other wildlife habitat. In your mission, you state that DEQ protects and enhances Virginia's environment and promotes the health and well-being of the citizens of the Commonwealth, and that you work together with the community to accomplish these tasks. There is a growing concern that the role of the environmental protection agencies is to regulate environmentalists. I ask that you prove all of us wrong along the multiple pipelines being proposed. Put a halt on this flawed process. Deny the permit for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live on the James River, the northern border of Buckingham County.
Ma'am, may I have your name and address, please, for the record?
Oh, sorry. Heidi Divivertu, 366 Wyland Road, Buckingham. I live right on the James River, about a mile downstream from where the pipeline would cross under. I think it's reasonable to expect household plumbing to leak. Now add that to a 42-inch high-pressure toxic fracked gas 600-mile pipeline with shut-off valves every 20 miles and one PHMSA inspector for every 5,000 miles of pipeline nationwide. That would run also through steep Appalachian terrain, through the headwaters of the drinking water of our nation's capital, our state capital, and all the communities near and far from the pathway of this pipeline, as it would traverse many, many streams, rivers, wetlands, and karst. Once an aquifer is poisoned, it is forever unusable. Dominion began its baseline testing of water earlier this year in the proposed compressor station neighborhood in Buckingham, which prompted local citizens to research what should be done independently of the pipeline. We quickly realized we were on our own as private citizens, but also the public health departments are at the mercy of their chain of command, the DEQ. There are not federal, state, or local agencies who would do baseline testing of our surface and groundwater, air, noise, and health assessments for this highly impactful, toxic construction project. Nor would there be testing during or post-construction unless we, the people, organize it and fund it. This testing should be a necessary precondition of issuing a construction or water permit. But I say that because this extensive and very expensive testing should be done, that this is evidence enough that this project would never be worth the sacrifice of our water, air, and land. Truly, what are we thinking? And what for a pipeline that has not proven its need, as there is plenty of evidence that existing underutilized pipelines could be used instead. And for 39 permanent jobs requiring specialists, not even locals, the solar industry employs thousands. What a waste. Who would want to live here when you can't drink your own water, you can't bathe in it, wash your dishes? What about the animals? Will they drink bottled water? And where does that bottled water come from? DEQ, exercise your full authority to review all water body crossing impacts instead of handing it over to the Army Corps. You are required to guarantee that our waterways will not be impaired by these pipelines. I can guarantee that there's no way on earth that you can make that promise, especially after seeing the long list of contaminants in fracked gas, industry secret actually, many of which there is no safe level of exposure. The ACP's plans for, can I just finish? Thank you. The ACP's plans for preventing impairments, thank you very much. The ACP's plans for preventing impairments from disturbing steep slopes, highly erodible soils, karst regions are not adequate, nor is there a way to proceed without severe impacts. You can't fool us. I think these pipelines can never pass a pillow test. None of us can sleep well at night, knowing the history of the thousands of pipeline failures and explosions and all the damage done. What more evidence is needed? You, DEQ, have the power, but have not shown the political will to shut this madness down.
Okay,
I
ma'am,
beg
thank
of
you.
you to deny this permit.
Thank you.
Find your strength and just say no to this big bad building.
Number 3, please.
Media County Resident 8040-92, Virginia. I'm also Business Manager, Secretary Treasurer, National Brotherhood of Board of Virginia, represents many members here in the state of Virginia. As an industrial worker, a member of the local Board Makers Union, and a local resident, I ask that you please approve the 401 permit application without delay. I have spent years in the field working on projects that require identical and similar types of skills needed to build the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I can attest to the high quality, training, and standards workers on this project must meet. Our occupation requires us to complete several thousand hours of field work through an apprenticeship, ensuring each new generation of workers meets the high safety and quality standards of the previous one. We value safety above nothing else, we value safety above anything else, and go above and beyond to create a culture where accidents are unacceptable. If we aren't safe, our communities and families, along with our own lives, are at risk. As a local construction worker who looks forward to the opportunity to work on this project, we're often concerned with the false truths that opponents are saying about this project. I can tell you from firsthand experience working on similar projects, and specifically compressor stations in Massachusetts, that these projects have, can, and will continue to be built safely. We take the quality of our work very seriously. We also know that natural gas is a great companion to other energy jobs like wind and solar, and building this project will lead to others as we transition away from coal-generated energy. Beyond safety and quality work, those in opposition often incorrectly argue these projects will not have any actual benefit to our country and state. They should ask the welders, foremen, blacksmiths, and other skilled workers who live and work in Virginia and who stand to gain years of work and wages from these projects, what it is that they will gain. The workers in this state know that this pipeline will involve thousands of workers in many different specialties across the state and will create jobs all over the region during and after construction of the project. We are well-trained, experienced, and hard workers who know how important this project is to our local, regional, and state economies. We also share the desire to build this pipeline safely and know that we can. If we don't, it means dangers to our families who also live in these communities. The science and technology has existed for decades to build and construct pipelines safely. And over the last decade, since existing pipelines were built, the science has only improved. I know my members will build this pipeline safely. I ask that you approve this permit so you can put us to work building our energy future using natural gas and other alternatives to help improve our environment. Thank you.
I'm Pastor Paul Wilson of Union Hill, Union Grove Baptist Churches, Buckingham County. I live at 12020 Devils Bridge Road, Amelia County. My church has been on the vanguard. We've been against the pipeline, the proposed pipeline and the compressor station from its very inception. Our church stands at the halfway mark of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. This pipeline will be detrimental to our church, to our community. It is predominantly African American. 80% of the property owners around the proposed pipeline are members of our church. We have one church, two locations. Both of our churches are in the ground zero range, within 1 mile of the proposed compressor station for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. It has been my observation that this total process is flawed. It is overwhelmingly and disproportionately supports big business. It's supposedly designed to oppress and to oppose the little guy. This process, the systematic overreach of big business, is deliberately overpowering to the small rural communities. If it is dangerous and intrusive and invasive to the more populated and urban areas of our Commonwealth, what makes it any less dangerous and intrusive and invasive to our rural communities? The emitted gases from the proposed compressor station, no one is going to die as soon as this compressor station is built, but the evidence shows that in the long run, that the health costs are astronomical. And we already have lots of people in our church, in our area, who have congestive heart failure, asthmatic problems, breathing conditions, sleep apnea, and the like. I find it ironic that we're being conditioned by big business, by marketing strategies. There's a necessity to buy water, Well, this pipeline, proposed pipeline, things do happen. We can talk about all of the safety, but things do happen. And who's going to bear the cost? There's a social and economic burden that has yet to be proven, or has been proven, but it's like it's being ignored. So I just want to take this opportunity to implore the DEQ to deny any and all permits for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, as well as the MVP. God bless.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carlton Ballou. I live in Nelson County, the epicenter of the opposition to the ACP. The umbrella group for the opposition was born there for the stated purpose of opposing the ACP by every means possible. Realizing a single small group had little chance of stopping the project, every means possible was to include manipulating other individuals, groups, elected officials, and regulators into fighting the battle for them. They found individuals willing to fight the survey law and raise money to finance the effort. They fought through the courts. They fought through local governments. They tried to manipulate county and city boards into using taxpayer funds to fight the battle for them. They pushed the Forestry Service and Park Service. They lobbied politicians and regulators at every level of government. DEQ is simply the latest entity they have sought to manipulate into fighting on behalf of their special interests. I am here because I want our country to be less dependent on foreign energy and thus safer and more secure. I want our air and water to be cleaner. I want energy to be more affordable so our economy can expand and our standard of living can continue to improve. The opposition is here because they wish to nix the project altogether and/or drive up the cost. They want to manipulate DEQ into using the power of the state to advance their objective for them. They smell blood in the water because they've already seen DEQ bend to pressure when they first said ACP could be constructed under a Corps of Engineers blanket permit, then seemed to back off that position when they were lobbied intensely. DEQ was right the first time, and they should not allow special interest groups to make DEQ policy, regardless of how loud those special interests are. ACP opponents would have you believe the Corps' blanket permit is inadequate, and DEQ is the only thing preventing Dominion from destroying the environment. That's not true. The Corps' permit is adequate, and Dominion is going to do an excellent job of protecting the environment, regardless of what permit or permits they work under. I know this because Dominion's employees are as representative of a cross-section of Virginia as any other group. As such, they're just as concerned about the environment as any other group. Because their employees are good neighbors and good citizens, Dominion is a good neighbor and a good corporate citizen. If good character and civic responsibility isn't enough, then self-interest certainly is. No entity would want to bring the wrath of the entire alphabet soup of regulatory agencies down on themselves. In addition, let us not forget that full compliance with all environmental requirements comes at no cost to Dominion. You and I, the energy consumer, will ultimately pick up the tab for any cost that they incur. So you see, Dominion has every incentive to protect the environment and no reason not to. For that reason, I asked DEQ to allow the ACP to be constructed under a Corps of Engineers blanket permit in order to spare Virginia consumers the expense of redundant regulation. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Cook. I live in Falls Church, Virginia, and I'm Vice President of U.S. Chambers Global Energy Institute. In commenting in support of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, I urge the state of Virginia to approve and grant the proposed Section 401 water quality certification for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline without delay. U.S. Chambers Global Energy Institute has been promoting that more infrastructure has to be built to move energy from where it's developed to where it is needed. The United States has abundant and diverse supply of energy. American ingenuity has been creating incredible innovations in energy technology. These new technologies are producing cleaner, cheaper energy supplies more efficiently than anywhere else in the world. Yet we need a more extensive energy delivery network that can make our supplies more readily available to all Americans. By improving access to reliable, clean, cheap energy, we'll help create jobs, build industry and manufacturing, reduce costs to consumers, hospitals, and schools, assist people trying to lift themselves out of poverty. In fact, people throughout the country, including Virginia, are being denied opportunity because they don't have access to cheaper energy like natural gas. This past year, we produced a study focused on the lack of pipelines to the Northeast, the resulting higher energy price, loss of jobs, and impact on the local economy. We found that due to the lack of energy pipelines, people in the Northeast pay 30% more for natural gas and 44% more for electricity than people in other parts of the country. The ACP is critical towards providing clean, low-cost energy to underserved regions of Virginia and North Carolina. It is important to ensure that ACP is built so that these areas aren't denied the jobs, economic benefits, and consumer savings which low-cost energy brings to communities. Throughout Virginia, North Carolina, and West Virginia, the project will stimulate billions of dollars in economic activity during construction, nearly $30 million a year in tax revenue once operational. The construction phase will support over 17,000 jobs and generate $2.7 billion in economic activity. Ongoing operations will support nearly 2,200 jobs. By bringing new, reliable, low-cost supplies of natural gas into the Mid-Atlantic through the ACP, energy costs for North Carolina and Virginia consumers are projected to decrease by $377 million annually. The project is critical to our region. Dominion Energy has thoroughly and carefully planned this project. The results from years of comprehensive studies. Changes were adopted to reduce risk and impacts to the environment. The Virginia DEQ, FERC, and other state and local regulatory agencies have provided input and lent their vast expertise and knowledge to the thorough review. The Virginia DEQ 401 permit process is responsible and at another level of review to ensure water quality is protected. We must trust our regulators and the process. ACP is a vitally important project to Virginia and our nation. Please approve it without delay. Thank you.
My name is Brandon Lee. I'm from Copeland, Virginia. For over a decade, I've worked as an operator and environmental health and safety coordinator for the natural gas industry in Virginia. I'm here tonight to share my firsthand knowledge of how the Atlantic Coast Pipeline will be built safely, and not negatively impact our water sources throughout the region. First, let me start by sharing in the last several decades, pipelines have been constructed safely in our region. We have several hundred miles of pipeline in my district alone, and most of them over there. Pipelines safely transport natural gas. In fact, the underground pipelines are the safest mode of transportation for natural gas. The project's erosion and sediment controls for stormwater pollution prevention plans incorporate the best-in-class practices to prevent erosion and sedimentation in steep slope areas to the water crossings. Even the federal regulators have confirmed this to be true. Further, the project team has designed the route to have the best path to avoid sensitive areas where birds, salamanders, and other wildlife inhabit to further protect their natural environment. The ACP route is a result of years of comprehensive studies. Over 300 reroutes across the project have been adopted to reduce the impacts to environmental and cultural historic resources and threatened and endangered species. Lastly, my expertise in this industry has given me a unique understanding of the safety of the project. ACP will have 14 environmental inspectors on site in Virginia during construction, supervised by a construction supervisor at each spread with oversight by an environmental compliance coordinator. These inspectors will monitor all activities daily and possible environmental concerns and have the authority to stop work if they identify environmental compliance issues. In addition to VDQ inspectors, FERC will have full-time inspectors in Virginia, approximately 1 inspector per spread with a total of 7 spreads in Virginia. Safety and environmental compliance are top priorities for all of my team, and I know from working with many engineers in the industry that we all take this work very seriously, mostly because we all have family that live in this region as well, and it impacts any type of impact to the water source will have a direct effect on our families as well. This project will be done safely and with utmost concern for environmental impact. The regulatory process at BDQ has chosen a reasonable and responsible. So thank you for your time and attention about this important project, and I ask that you approve the 401 application. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Weaver, Business Manager of Labor's Local Union 980 in Roanoke, Virginia. I support the ACP. This project will put hundreds of local men and women to work and earn a livable wage, plus receive health and pension benefits, which are paid by the contractors and not coming out of the workers' wage. This is a great opportunity for local people to start a career and work in the construction and pipeline industry. Some of the best contractors in the world will be working on this project, and they've crossed thousands of rivers and thousands of streams and thousands of creeks. Thank you.
603 Green Hill Lane in Churchville, Virginia, Augusta County. Augusta County, by the way, is the capital karst terrain in our state. It is rife with sinkholes and caverns. It's a lousy place to build a pipeline. It is also the primary headwaters of Potomac and the Chesapeake Bay, and it's a fragile and unique water source that must be protected at all costs. Okay. I am a landowner. I have lived in the state of Virginia since 1962. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard. I love Virginia. I love my nation and my planet as well as the farmland on which I dwell. I wish to keep this land safe from all harm. In light of the looming pipeline threat from MVP and the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, I lost my place here. Let's say I can see that numerous in light of the looming threat of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, MVP, and the Atlantic Coast Pipeline projects, respectively, as well as a number of fossil fuel and nuclear energy projects around the planet, I can clearly see that the air quality of soil and water within the globe of planet Earth are in jeopardy. This is specifically due to the greed and short-sightedness of those who own these industrial interests. These must be challenged and stopped. Now is a time, a critical time, for change, a paradigm shift. I previously spoke about the fact that wind and water technologies are only stopgap measures. We must have dependable, clean energy sources. For over the past 100 years, the powers that have been have deliberately suppressed the knowledge of the works of one Nikola Tesla, a Serbian-born inventor, 1856 to 1943, and these inspired inventions. There are something in excess of 5,000 of these such patents in the deep files of the U.S. Patent Office. Internal documents in this agency make it clear to the employees that they are never to mention or acknowledge these devices. My fellow citizens, please examine the evidence that I will present. Go to YouTube and Google, and you can find many of these such items. Check out number 1, Methanita Community in Switzerland. This is a small Christian-based community that has been running off the grid on a number of Testatica static field generators for easily 30 years, simply a matter of fact. Number 2, Stanley Meyer, water-fueled car, inventor killed. See the video evidence of this device in action. Stanley Meyer was poisoned in 1998. Number 3, the best current example, Dr. Randy Mills, brilliant light power, sun cell generator. You can find it at brilliantlightpower.com. Call and speak to them directly. This device will be released for sale to the public in 2018. To embrace free energy over unity technology by the public is the true source of energy independence for the people. I freely offer this to you, my fellow citizens. Do with this as you will. I have handouts.
On the Appomattox and Buckingham parts of James River. Many of you know my husband, and in this room you probably voted for him before. Watkins Abbott, who has served on the Water Control Board in the past and was a member of the General Assembly for 28 years. He's known as Mr. Environment and has been known as Mr. Environment through his whole time. He's been a major steward of the waters of Virginia, and as such has gotten or received many awards as being such. We both consider ourselves stewards where our children can play in the James River, where they fish, swim, and canoe, and often end up swallowing the river water when our canoes crash. I'd just like to set out in support of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline some of the regulations that have been set out for DEQ, and these are without a doubt some of the strictest, if not the strictest, that I've ever seen. DEQ has set out guidelines recommending additional pre- and post-construction water quality monitoring, heightened erosion and sedimentation control practices, and pre-impact characterization of proposed stream and wetland crossings. They require each pipeline developer to submit detailed project-specific erosion and sedimentation control and stormwater plans for every foot of land disturbed related to the pipeline construction. Every foot. They coordinate with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in permitting dredge and activities in wetland streams, including restoring pre-construction conditions. They assure that water quality standards are maintained by requiring water quality certification conditions to all potentially impact water resources related to activities that may affect water quality outside the temporary construction impacts to the streams and wetlands. Finally, they conduct its own water quality monitoring to evaluate water quality conditions at numerous locations. We believe that controls that will be in place pre- and post-construction of the pipeline assure even better water quality than is in place now. Not only that, it will provide jobs in these much-needed areas and also, more importantly, provide clean, renewable energy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is David Height, 217 Bethel Lane, Roseland, Nelson County. Our society is so interconnected and reliant upon the sectors, both foreign and domestic, as to dwarf the mind. The production, transportation, and use of energy is controlled by international factors. The one fuel that offers vast independence for the United States is domestic natural gas, but it must be moved from the source of production to the points of need. When this is accomplished, homes and industries are powered, creating products for sale to the world. Our society collects taxes to provide for its needs from the production of manufactured products. On the other hand, when we purchase our energy from foreign sources, we are a debtor society and our nation is weakened. Too many persons who oppose the ACP do not understand the concept because they do not participate in the production of national wealth, but they consume the production of others. This is why our nation is 20 trillion in debt. The 24-inch pipeline, named the Big Inch, was constructed at the beginning of World War II. Was a very important part of our victory in World War II. Its conversion to natural gas and the building of other pipelines powered our society through the baby boom years. These pipelines were built at times before environmental extremism, yet their impact is imperceptible today. These pipelines are monitored to protect the areas through which they pass. Aside from identifying markers, their location and operation are unnoticed. The ACP has proposed extensive measures to protect areas through which it will be built. Technologies exist today that allow safer construction practices than there were in years past. Reading the proposals that presented by Dominion or Atlantic Coast Pipeline, I noticed the buffer zones near water courses would be maintained. This was not possible with previous construction methods. Pipelines have created prosperity that our nation enjoys. As our nation's population expands, we must expand our infrastructure to match this growth, or we will fall further into debt and cease to be the greatest nation on earth.
In Wheelersburg, Virginia, and this pipeline will be only approximately 100 feet from our property line. My husband Jason is a third-generation pipeline builder. He has worked all across the country on pipeline projects, helping ensuring that Americans can get the energy we need reliably at prices we can afford. I'm proud of the work that he's done and is doing. This isn't just our stake in the project. We also live adjacent to the pipeline route, and my brother and neighbors are directly impacted. Our family couldn't be more supportive of this project, and here's why. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline is pivotal to Virginia's future. We are facing a serious energy crunch. As coal plants go dark, we need more energy to fuel our growing Commonwealth. The demand for natural gas is projected to double in Virginia and North Carolina over the next 20 years. Adding more natural gas to our energy generation is a good thing environmentally as well. Natural gas produces half the carbon emissions of coal, and it serves as a critical source of backup energy as we work to get more wind and solar energy online. Natural gas keeps the lights on, prices low, and improves the environment. There are over 2,000 miles of underground natural gas pipelines in our state right now. Our water nor our communities have been adversely impacted. The projects are safe because these pipelines are built by men and women committed to ensuring that is the case. My husband is one of those men. Jason is an expert in this field and has had over 25 years of training to make sure these projects get done right, safe, and best in class. They are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's a reason why when you drive from Charlottesville to Richmond on I-64, you cross 4 underground natural gas pipelines and don't even have a second thought about it. Because all of those who work on these projects are committed to getting them built and operated the right way at all times. Currently, and for the past several months, Jason has been working locally right here near Buckingham, testing and doing preventative maintenance to ensure that the existing pipelines are operating properly and safely. We love Nelson County and we love Virginia. This is our lifelong home. We want to protect the beauty and the integrity of the waterways just as much as anyone else in this room. I trust the work of my husband and the many men and women that work with him. I'm excited about this project, bringing him home for several years to work on a project that will benefit our home, our friends, and our neighbors. Please approve the permit before you. Thank you.
Live in Nelson County. Thank you much for doing this. There's going to be a show. I don't testimony to protect our water in any kind of way. And if the DEQ is supposed to protect our water, then say no to this permit.
Hi, my name is Deborah Kushner. I live in Schuyler, Nelson County. Please protect and preserve our most precious resource. This whole process is flawed. It's too quick and too much is missing. All the facts need to be addressed, like sedimentation, stormwater management, and erosion. We have everything to lose by rushing this process. I depend on well water, and when I don't have power and no well pump, I have no water. And my life becomes a singular quest for water. But so far I've never had to do without for more than a few days. If my underground aquifer is compromised, my water will be poisoned forever. The stakes are far too high. A blanket water permit for the almost 2,000 water body crossings that this pipeline would make is absurd. Please stand up to your supervisors and the governor if you need to. If you're pressured, you will be heroes for doing the right thing to delay this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kirk Bowers, Charlottesville, Virginia, representative of the Sierra Club, Virginia chapter. This will be my last night for speaking. You know, there's been no pipelines of this size built across our mountains in Virginia. None, zero. This is an experiment. As a professional licensed engineer with over 30 years, as I said in the previous meetings I've been at, I have no confidence in the construction workers. I've seen too many corners taken, too many shortcuts, and too much sloppy work out in the field to be able to trust construction workers. The magnitude of these projects is huge. The ACP would cross 32.5 miles of karst terrain. ACP would cross over 84 miles of slopes greater than 20%. That's a lot. And a lot of these slopes are actually over 40 or 60% in steepness. The ACP would cross 1,989 water bodies, including 851 perennial, 779 intermittent, 248 ephemeral, 764 canals and ditches, 47 open water sections, and 12 section 12 navigable water bodies. And that's a lot of water that we're going to be crossing. You're looking at every 350 feet of pipeline corridor, that's a disturbance of 1 acre or more. Atlantic is proposing to use approximately 138.9 million gallons of surface water. DTI is proposing to use 4.3 million gallons for hydrostatic testing, and they're not paying a dime, not a cent for this water, and that's our water. And we need to make sure it gets back into our streams and rivers in clean condition. Last, I have been trying over the last several days to tie the erosion sediment control regulations, stormwater management regulations into the 401 certification process. And a letter that I received from David Taylor recently, he states the pipeline developers must comply with numerous general conditions applicable to each nationwide permit, including General Condition 12. This condition requires the appropriate soil erosion and sediment control devices to be used during construction. This requirement ties in the requirements and practices of the Virginia EMS program regulations. The point is, we just got the plans published in mid-July, so we really don't have the time to look at these plans to make sure they're adequate and meet the requirements of the regulations, and neither does the board. So the point is, we ask that you delay any decisions until next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Arsenault. I'm from Cullen, Virginia, Spring Creek Road. And I want to address the panel and just from my own experience, I'm one of those people that's actually done this. I'm an old man, but for 30 years I lived in Alaska, and I worked in the oil field up there, worked on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, from 74 to 77, Beluga natural gas pipeline, and probably 200 or 300 other feeder pipelines up in the Prudhoe Bay area. Addressing the water quality issues, I personally have been on river crossing teams that have done this, and I've had my hands dirty in it to get it done. And this is 40-year-old technology. Okay, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline was completed in 1977, and I was there when the first instrument was put in the pipeline in Prudhoe Bay. I was part of that team to send it down to calibrate the whole pipeline because it was finished. There hasn't been a single water quality issue with that pipeline as of today. And I was also on the team, well, part of the team, crossing the Yukon River, which is the most significant river in that whole part of North America. 1,800 miles of river, one crossing the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. No issues, because the industry knows how to do this and has proven it over and over for the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years. We have over 4,000 pipelines in America. How many hundreds of thousands of streams have been crossed? And it's done correctly. This pipeline is no different.
Sorry, I have to interrupt. I have to, at the transatlantic pipeline,
Sorry.
the pipeline he's talking about actually spilled 5,000 barrels of oil. 5,000 barrels.
Everybody needs to shut up and let the people
I'm not going to let him lie.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into recess for 15 minutes.